Hello, welcome back students. Welcome back to online lectures of subject OC. I am Vaibhav Shah and this is our lecture number 6 of subject OC and chapter number 2, that is Principles of Management. In last lecture we have discussed the principles of scientific management given by Frederick Winslow Taylor, or we can say F.W. Taylor. But due to the limitation of time, we have just discussed only 6 principles out of total 8 principles. So let us take quick glimpse of all 6 principles which we have discussed in last lecture. So first principle was scientific management, in which abandoning the traditional method and thinking totally, and now in the place of this traditional method we are using the scientific method for the management of organization. Second one was planning and implementation. So in traditional method we are having only one class of people who are doing or performing both the activities of planning and implementation. It means they are planner as well as implementator. But due to this new principles of management, now we are having a two class of people. One class of people are experts who are making planning, and second one is a worker who should follow the plans made by these experts. Third one is a job analysis that can be done on the basis of studying time study, motion study and fatigue study, and it is the best way to get work done speedily with lower cost. So through job analysis we are clarifying two objectives. First one is lowering the cost and second one is increasing the productivity by the way of time study, motion study and fatigue study, which we are going to discuss today in the techniques of principles of scientific management. Then fourth one is standardization. It is a standardized and simplifying process. It means there should be some kind of standardization in the terms of equipment, time, situation of work, resources, etc. These are the matters which are considered for standardization, and in which we have taken the example of tea for 3 or 4 peoples. Then fifth one is a scientific selection and training. So in place of old and traditional method of selection and training where there is no proper sequence or proper method was followed regarding the selection of worker, and now we are having new method where scientific standards or benchmarks like education of employees, skill, guts, physical strength, training, etc. can be considered, and moreover the employee should be assigned such work that must be according to his education, study and skill. So in place of old and traditional method where we are selecting the employees randomly, now we are having a proper scientific selection and training method which will be useful for recruiting the efficient candidates for the organization. The sixth principle is the financial motivation. As per the point of view of F.W. Taylor, financial motivation is the main motivation. If we provide to any of the employees, then we can get extraordinary return. There is two type of motivation is there. First one is a financial and second one is a non-financial. But amongst them, the financial motivation, and in which the differential or motivated wage scheme have been recommended by Frederick Winslow Taylor, and it will be on the basis of individual productivity of employees, and this wage rate should be decided not as per speculation but should only be done by scientific studies. So in last lecture we have discussed all these 6 points, and today let us move forward with the point number 2, that is economical. During the implementation of scientific management, scientific and technical base are not only considered but emphasis on low production cost is also there. It means in the place of traditional methods or traditional principles of management, if we are putting forward these scientific principles of management, we have to consider that the low production cost should also be one of the main aim of these scientific management principles. So here, during the implementation of scientific management, see, the scientific management is totally rethinking of business activities, where we are making changes in the processes and methods of doing or working in an organization. And sometimes we are abandoning the old techniques and methods, and we are installing the new methods. So here, which scientific and technical base are not only considered. It means when we are abandoning the old method and implementing the new method, only the scientific and technical base is not the point of concern, but emphasize should also on the low production cost. It means the production cost should also reduce. And if we are unable to reducing this production cost, then there will be heavy loss which will be borne by the organization itself. Cost estimation and cost control methods should be considered. So first of all, we have to make the estimate of all the costs that are associated with implementing this modern means of the management, or we can say by implementing the scientific principles of management. So first of all, we have to estimate the cost, that is the cost of implementing the new method, and then if the cost estimation is very high, or we can say if the cost is very high during implementing these principles, we should have some kind of cost control method which will be useful in reducing the cost of implementing these new methods. And if deviation should be found, and correct action should be taken. So in the case if the cost estimation is very high, and there will be the highest gap between actual cost estimation and expected cost estimation, that is if the actual cost is higher than expected cost, then we can say there is a deviation. So if the question is asked like what is deviation, the answer should be like this: the gap between expected and actual result is called deviation. So if in any way deviation should be found and correct action should be taken. About this, like deviation and corrective action, we'll discuss on chapter number 7, that is on controlling. Now last but not least is the scientific principle number 8, that is mental revolution. There should be mental revolution for achievement between owners and workers. So in traditional and old methods, basically there is a wide range of critics, and there is a problem between these two groups of people, that is owners and workers, and they are having conflicting objectives in nature. So mental revolution means what? Revolution means totally drastic changes in any of the activities. Here mental revolution means there should be some kind of brainstorming between these two class of peoples, that is owners and workers, and now they should be able to work with the coordination of each other. So there should be mental revolution for achievement between owners and workers. Now they will be able to work together so that the goal achievement will become easy. Mental revolution reduces stress between owners and workers, and achievement of goals become easy. Because now here it is a clear-cut objective, that is the objective of owner is more productivity, while the objective of the workers is more wages. Now there is a coordination between these two. When workers are giving more productivity, they are getting more wages, and that's why their income is also increasing. So due to this mental revolution, there is a total rethinking in the organization which will helpful in achievement of goals very easily. So here we have discussed all these 8 principles of management. That is, first one is scientific method, second one is planning and implementation, third one is job analysis, fourth one is standardization, fifth one is scientific selection and training, sixth one is financial motivation, seventh one is economical, and eighth one is mental revolution. Now let us move forward and discuss the techniques or principles of scientific management. Basically, amongst many of the techniques which are provided by the Frederick Winslow Taylor, here we are going to discuss about the time study, motion study and differential wage rates study. The fourth one is a fatigue study, which is not covered over here, but I will give you a simple overview of the fatigue study at the end of this techniques of principles of scientific management. So let us start with the first point, that is 2.3.4.1 time study. Time study means scientific study being done for time required to complete certain part of task. So line this sentence because it will be useful when the question is asked like what is time study. You have to answer like time study means scientific study being done for time required to complete certain part of task. Here it is one kind of standardization. In time study also we are focusing on the time taken to finish the work in normal circumstances. So here time study means scientific study being done for time required to complete certain part of task. It means there should be standard process or there should be a standard time period is fixed for completing a particular task. Say for example in a factory when they are making a pillow. So the standard time taken for finishing the work of one pillow or producing a one pillow is 2 minutes. So if the worker is working for 60 minutes, that is one full hour, there should be minimum 30 units of pillow will be produced because this is the minimum quantity that is decided by the way of time study. So it means the scientific study, as we have discussed 3 matters, that the employee should be given work according to his mental and physical ability. Second one is he has to work maximum as per the work of his category, and third one that they should be provided with the wage rate of 30% to 100%. So for deciding all these 3 elements or for following all these 3 elements, there should be some kind of scientific studies undertaken in which decides the time required, because without the minimum target or minimum standard of time we cannot provide them more wages. So here whatever time is decided to finish this work in normal circumstances is called standard time. In our example, for producing one pillow through machines, one thing is to remember here is that we have to produce the pillow with the help of machines and not manually. So whatever time is decided to finish his work in normal circumstances is called standard time. So in normal circumstances, any of the worker who is working on a machine will take 2 minutes for producing one pillow, and it is called the standard time for producing a pillow. As per Taylor, a task should be finished in prescribed time. So the target of this particular activity is decided like the task should be finished in any of the situation within, and the careful study of this prescribed time limit is called time study. Time study is useful for making optimum use of production equipments and achieving aims timely. Line this statement also because in examination it can be asked like what is the main goal of time study, and we have to write this sentence as the time study is useful for making optimum use of production equipments. That's why in today's modern factory we are having 3 shifts, that is each shift of 8 hours, and This is decided by the way of time study, because the time study is useful for making optimum use of production equipment. Here there is one question in our mind, like if machines are using for 24 hours a day, is it will be available for more works, or is there any kind of problem or obsolescence in that? No, these machines are made for the purpose of working 24 hours only, and by the way of time study we are able to making the optimum use of this production equipment and achieving aims timely. So it may happens that it will useful in achieving our production targets in timely manner. So first technique of principle of scientific management is time study, which is the scientific study being done for time required to complete a certain part of task, and whatever time is decided to finish work in normal circumstances, it means in a normal circumstances whatever time is taken to complete a one unit of a particular production, it is called standard time, and it is also called the prescribed time for the careful study is time study. Next one is point number second, that is motion study. Motion study means method of removing wastage of resources due to unnecessary and unproductive movement of man and material. In any of the factory premises, we are having the movement of man and material, because it should be arranged in a manner that it will be helpful in producing the goods according to the demand. But unnecessary and unproductive movement will be time consuming, and it will increase the cost of production and will decrease the productivity of labor. So here the motion study means the method of removing wastage of resources. Here resources means either time or labor or money due to unnecessary and unproductive movement of man and material. So through this motion study, Frederick Winslow Taylor wants to suggest that by this way we can remove the wastage of resources. So it will be helpful in two phases. At one hand, we are having the wastage of resources which will be helpful in reducing the cost, and second hand, due to unnecessary and unproductive movement, if we prevent this unnecessary and unproductive movement of man and material, we can increase the productivity also. So through the motion study, it will be helpful in reducing the cost due to reducing the wastage, and secondly, due to preventing this unnecessary movement, we can increase the productivity of labor also. If careful study is made when worker is doing movement at the time of working, then industrial fatigue of worker can be removed by removing wrong process of movement, and productivity can be increased. Here we have to consider one thing is that we cannot stop all this movement, because it is necessary to arrange or to move the machinery and resources or raw material from one place to another place. But if careful study is made, it means when we are making a careful study regarding the just in time concept, just in time means the resources should be available at the time when it is necessary. So if careful study is made when worker is doing movement at the time of working, it means during the working hours, the movement of the worker, or we can say there will be the change in the shift or change in the work process of different workers. If we are making a careful study, then industrial fatigue of worker, fatigue means one kind of boredom, one kind of stress or depression, can be removed by removing wrong process of movement. So here, due to the careful study, we can make necessary changes in the movement and arrangement of machinery and worker, which will be helpful in reducing the industrial fatigue of worker, and by that way we can get the maximum productivity, and by this way the productivity can be increase. So if the careful study is made for the movement of this man, material and machinery, then industrial fatigue can be reduced and it will be helpful in increasing the productivity of labor also. The main objective of motion study is to find out the method which result into minimum wastage of worker and its implementation. So here we cannot prevent the 100% wastage of worker and its implementation, but through this method we can try to reduce, or it will result in minimum wastage of worker and its implementation. So motion study is helpful in removing wastages of resources, and that will increase the productivity of a man, and wastage of resources can be done through preventing the unnecessary and unproductive movement of man and material, which will be helpful in productivity of employees, and it will result into the minimum wastages of worker and its implementation. Now the third point is differential wage rate study. Differential wage rate study means wage given through wage related motivation based on time of work to workers. Here the third and important point is differential wage rate study. Please line the first sentence. If the question will be asked like what is differential wage rate study in 1 mark, then we have to mention that differential wage rate study means wage given through wage related motivation. Now first of all, what is wage? So wage is a daily remuneration which is given to the workers for their daily work. Here the differential wage rate means we should provide them wage on the basis of their productivity and time of work by the workers, or time spent by the workers in the organization. So differential wage rate study means wage given through wage related motivation. Remember the third point that is given by Frederick Winslow Taylor, that if the person is efficient enough, then we should provide them 30% to 100% more wages. So the wage related motivation should be given based on the time of work to workers. It means how much time they have spent in the organization. Frederick Taylor favored this motivation wage method. So in traditional method there is nothing like motivational wage method, and they are working on a similar basis. But now in this new method, Frederick Winslow Taylor favored this motivational wage method. Each worker working in factory have different work efficiency. This is universal truth, because as we are seeing in our classroom also, all the students are not of the same efficiency. They can work with the different efficiency and different capacity. So in same way, in organization also, each worker working in a factory have different work efficiency, and they are not efficient enough. Some of the employees are not able to complete even their minimum work, and sometimes it may happen that some of the employees are doing extraordinary working and they will achieve the target very easily, but they will work for more than twice or thrice. Considering this fact that efficient workers should get more wages and worker having less efficiency should get lower wage in terms of more production. So considering the fact that is each worker working in factory have different work efficiency, it means they are not with the same working capacity and efficiency. Efficient workers should get more wages. It means if the person is efficient enough to produce a target given by him very easily, or the target which is decided by the management will be done within a stipulated time period, and then also he gets more work, it means he is able to give some more productivity, then he should be get more wages. And the worker having less efficiency should get lower wage in terms of more production. It means in terms of more production means it is the full sentence that considering this fact efficient workers should get more wages in terms of more production. It means if the efficient worker is giving a more productivity, then he will be able to getting more wages. And if the worker having less efficiency should get lower wages in terms of less production. So here it is correction, in which if the person is efficient enough to complete his target on time, and if he is doing some kind of extraordinary work and giving more productivity, or he is producing more product, then he should get more wages. As we have discussed in the third and last point, that is the suggestion of Frederick Winslow Taylor, that the efficient worker should get the wages between 30% to 100%, is linking over here also. So if the efficient worker is working more productively, then he should get more wages, and worker having less efficiency, it means the less efficient worker who either works very less or just achieving his target will get lower wages in terms of his production. And considering this fact, Frederick Taylor has given differential wage rate study. So this is the last and third and last study, which is, or technique, which is given by the Frederick Winslow Taylor, that is differential wage rate study. Here we have discussed that the wage given through wage related motivation based on time of work to workers. Basically, this time spent by the worker in the factory and the wages provided to them is the old and traditional method. In new and latest method, we are focusing on the productivity and production done by the workers instead of their time spent in the organization. So Frederick Taylor favored this motivational wage method, where he has considered that if the worker is efficient enough and getting, or if he is giving more productivity and production, then he should get more wages. And if the worker is having less efficiency, it means if he is an average worker or below average worker, should get lower wages, that is minimum salary, in terms of their production. So by this way, Frederick Winslow Taylor has given three different studies. First one is a time study. It means the standard time taken to complete a certain part of task. Second one is a motion study, in which we have discussed that the removing waste of resources due to prevention of unnecessary and unproductive movement of man and material, and by this way we are getting a more productivity, and it will helpful in reducing the cost of production. While in differential wage study we have discussed that if the worker is efficient enough to giving more productivity, then he should get more wages, and if he is an average worker, then their less efficiency should get them lower wages in the organization. As I have promised that I will give you the glimpse of the fetish study in the last of this topic. So fourth one, or the main, or one of the main topic of Frederick Winslow Taylor's technique is fetish study also. During the working in the organization, sometimes repetitive and monotonous work will result into the boredom and stress and depression, and it will result into the less productivity of or the employee. But if proper fetish study is done, and if proper time lapses, or we can say some kind of recess or break is given to the employees, then it will helpful in getting rid from this monotonous and this repetitive work, and now worker will be able to giving more productivity. One of the example of this fetish study is the recess time given by us in the schools. Basically, the school timing and the recess timing, or we can say the break timing, is done, or it is get from the scientific studies given by the Frederick Winslow Taylor. Remember the point that due to this study, our schools will be maximum of 8 hours and not more than that, because the working capacity of any of the ordinary men is maximum 8 hours, and there should be a recess between the 2 hours or 3 hours, and if we are not providing the recess, then the productivity or the grasping power of the students will be reduced. So here in the techniques we have discussed this. Four techniques. First one is a time study, second one is a motion study, third one is a differential wedge rate study, and fourth one, which is not in our syllabus but just for your knowledge, is the fatigue study. And by this point, the total point of this scientific management studies, which consists of total 3 lectures. In the initial lecture, we have discussed about the Frederick Winslow Taylor and his findings. In second lecture, we discussed about the scientific principles given by F.W. Taylor, and today we have discussed about this techniques of management. From next lecture onwards, we will move forward with the principles of management given by Henry Fayol. Till then, happy day. Thank you very much.